7:09, this May 23rd, 2023 Town Council hybrid meeting. We will rise for pledge of allegiance, and then I'm requesting a full minute of silence to honor the passing of life of Ms. Carlson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See the proclamations and presentations under item 4.1. We do our proclamation honoring the life of Dennis Carlson, where their family was unable to make it. So I'll be entertaining they should be, or that they're planning to be here for the 13th of June. So I would entertain a motion to postpone item 4.1 for the June 13th meeting. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Unicheck. And because we are hybrid, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Weaver? Councilor Weaver?
Aye.
Councilor Unicheck? And I'm aye, so that is unanimous. So we will present that proclamation to the family of Captain Carlson at our next meeting. That brings us to item 5, which is public petitions, communications, and public participation. Any subject in the jurisdiction of town council with a 2-minute limit. If you are on Zoom, you can hit *9 or the raise hand function. And if you are in the public, you can approach the table and state your name and address for the record. So we traditionally start with the audience first, and the person in the response back to the line, keep going back and forth until everyone's had a chance to speak for that 2-minute limit. So with that being said, open the floor to residents in the first.
Good evening. Juliette Finichel, 19 Joseph Drive, Tolland, Connecticut. I had sent a letter on May 17th to Town Council and Town Manager regarding the cementing of the town green. And I only received one acknowledgement that anyone received it, so I came here today to make sure that it was public information. First, I've lived in this town 31 years, and the roads in my neighborhood have not been maintained. High Ridge Drive has many potholes. It has many areas of scree. It also has yards of repair by the town. But it is so deteriorated, the town cannot keep up with its repair. If the town has extra money for a sidewalk that is not mandated for ADA compliance, I request that you use the funds to maintain roads. Second, the town has spent many of thousands of dollars on conserving new land in town. The town has only one green, which is over 300 years old. Why can't the town conserve the green? Third, I do not know who designed the proposed walkway, but it is too close to the holiday tree. Next year, the tree will have grown over the walkway. Are you going to cut the tree or shave off the side? Fourth, what funds has the town set aside to maintain this sidewalk? The town has said it is too costly to maintain the sidewalks it already has on them. The town will be adding expense to their maintenance budget. If the town cannot maintain what it already has, why is it putting in more infrastructure to maintain? Fifth, I listened to the town attorney state at a town council meeting that there was no mandate for the town to make the green ADA compliant. The town manager stated that the sidewalk was needed to give access to the farmer's market. Now he has stated the market has to turn from the access road to sell on Route 195. Has the state DPW and state trooper given a written opinion that this is safe? I don't think this is safe. The towns around us are growing rapidly. Manchester has a population of 35,000. Vernon is close behind with a population of 30,000. We are feeling this pressure. The governor says Connecticut needs more housing. Putting a sidewalk on the green makes it a street. Even in Manchester and Vernon, they do not on their greens. We are not Vernon or Manchester. Lastly, this is an important decision. Put this issue to a town vote. Do we want to cement the green? Do we want to conserve the green? And I'm giving a copy to the clerk for her records, but I also would like to add that there's one proposal here. And the town got one proposal for Birch Grove. It's public money. It should go out to public bid. And there should be one or two more at least options for the green. The present plan intends to cut down the maple tree in front of the Tolland red and white. The maple tree.
So just as a quick heads up, we've been well beyond the 2-minute limit, so if you could please summarize. I was trying to be.
Last point.
Yeah.
Trees, mature trees are worth $107,000 to a community. I noticed that it is going into the utilities, but Eversource can come along and give it a funny haircut. That's what I have to say. And that is proposed to 8.2 on the agenda.
Checking to see if there's anybody on Zoom, nothing hand raised, so,
Gonna see back and forth.
yeah, no, so we should be all set, so,
Go ahead.
go ahead, sir.
My name's Ken Upling, 19 Summerwood Bridge in Tolland. I've lived here almost 2 years, lived in Wellington for 48 years. When I was in Wellington, I was a vice president of the Historical Society. I'm a member of the Connecticut Glass and Coventry. And I think history is pretty important. Soldiers met on that green to go off to the Revolution War, the Civil War, and who knows what other wars. But if you go to Vermont or Lebanon or whatever, they don't have a runway of concrete down the center of their greens. And if you do that, who's going to maintain it? Like this lady just said, it's going to frost, going to buckle it up and all that. And you have a sidewalk on the other side. Why can't you put it over there instead of ruining a historical green? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Quickly to line, still no hands raised, so we'll move back to the public.
That guy.
Go ahead.
Marlon Knight, 84 Anthony Road South. I'm here because I'm trying to understand the other night and what went on in town. I was on this town council many, many years ago. We had a town police force, I think town constables. I was an advocate for the resident state trooper program. I think they're more professional. I think they're trained. It's a better deal. It was a better deal for the town. Unfortunately, the police, everything I can garner the other night was inadequate. I mean, people are calling 911 and nobody shows up. One of the reasons I advocate for the resident state trooper program is because there's an entire organization that they're tied into. The state police can respond if they want to. I've watched it on 195. I can't believe the number of troopers, the number of vehicles that will respond to an emergency. And it didn't happen. And we're owed an answer to that. Why not? And you're owed an answer as representatives of the town. What I'd like you to do is ask the town attorney to look at our contractual agreement regarding the resident state troopers to see if there's any way you can withhold some payment to the state for services not provided. Let's see if we can go down that road to try to get some attention to this. I don't see anybody asking the obvious question. If somebody was told to stand down, who did it? Who is that person? And I don't want a title, I don't want the state police hierarchy. I don't want that answer. I want to know who did it and why. And they should come before this council and explain to the townspeople and you why that decision was made. Maybe it's justified. I don't know. I can't imagine it would be. But maybe I'll give them some credit and see if it'll fall where it may. But I don't hear anybody going down that path, and it needs to be done. Because this can't happen again. When people call 911, they expect a response. And they didn't get it. And that is shameful. It's a mark against this town, it's a mark against the state police, and it just can't continue. So I'd like you to take that under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone with their hands raised online, so I saw a gentleman in the back was about to rise. There you are.
Don Thibodeau, 127 Derrick Drive. This gentleman just stole all my notes on this isolated incident. I've seen it. My biggest concerns have been around the response that I've read. Not only the non-response of the state police, who were supposed to be there, as he said, to provide assistance. The fact that I read, I'm not sure who provided the information, but the quote of, well, how many officers can we muster at 10 o'clock at night is totally irresponsible. And the state police not only owe the people that were scared to death in that riot where they got no response. Calling 911, no, we're gonna stand down, do the best you can without us. Ridiculous. They had clubs, they turned violent for crying out loud. That's what I heard. I saw the videos. Right. I agree. They need to come here and explain why they did what they did. They should have never done it. That was a police officer in the middle of that mob. You don't think 100 cops would have been there in 10 minutes for their safety? They would have been. Believe me, they would have been. They could have responded. They bring those cars home to their houses. They're always on duty. There are officers in this town in my neighborhood who could have responded, right? I saw a thing on the news tonight where a bunch of seniors are being celebrated as heroes because they surrounded someone who was attacking another person. And our law enforcement can't show a presence, even one or two. Go ahead, go there. At least show those poor people that were caught in that you care. You know, we pay a lot of money. I don't know what it is for the law enforcement in this town, but it just certainly failed us this time. And the fact that this 10 o'clock and who can we muster? You're pretty much telling the people who want to run rabid around our cities, yeah, come to Tolland after 10. State police can't cover it. Bring 50 people. They won't show up. They'll leave you alone. It's just unacceptable. It's a good thing they didn't choose to burn the big Y or the bank or whatever else that we keep around. It's just a pitiful mark on the state police. And I support them, but this was not. And I agree. Whoever did that stand down, they need to show up here and give some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Still not seeing anyone on Zoom, so we'll continue with in-person. Jody?
Hi, Jody Coleman Garciano. I'm chair of the Historic District Commission, and I also live at 79 Tolland Green. I just wanted to say, I'm sure you all got our correspondence from the Historic District Commission. I attended the Veterans Recognition Commission meeting on Thursday, and they are very much in support of preserving history as well. And we discussed some other options as far as the veterans area, which would be pavers so that they could put people's names on them, which would be similar to the ones in front of the art center, which would create unity between these three buildings right across here. Everybody would have some nice brick in the front, just like our town hall does. We're looking at more eco-friendly and cost-efficient material for the sidewalk. But I would like to ask if we could have a review from the public safety officer about whether the placement of the sidewalk with its proximity to Route 195 is going to be safe, because apparently it doesn't look too safe now. That's why we have the orange fence up for the farmer's market. I also wanted to know if there's a way that we could get like an accident report of how many accidents have happened on the town green within the last 3-ish years. I know of 7 vehicles that have ended up on the green. 2 of them were 2 Saturday night specials, and they both had to get towed away. And I know that there was another vehicle right over here recently. There was a truck on the green also. So safety is definitely a concern on the 195 side. I also think that we could have some more cost-efficient savings for the town if we reduce the width of the sidewalk. ADA compliance is only 48 inches. The proposal is for 5 feet. I think if we make it a little skinnier, we could save a lot of money. And I would ask that if there's any ARPA funds left over, if this is approved for $400,000, that it go towards making our athletic fields ADA compliant. I know there's a lot of families that have grandparents in wheelchairs and young children in strollers, and they're unable to get to the games that their children are participating in. I think we should really make this a town-wide project. And I also want to say that I attended last night's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and we have asked for their assistance with this project, and they're most definitely happy because they have a little more expertise, and they're referring it to the Design Advisory Board, where we have a team of talent experts who have degrees and professional jobs in landscape engineering, architecture. The gentleman that designed this plan is a civil engineer. His specialty is drainage in streets and roads. He mistakenly forgot that we have 4 elms and labeled them all as maple trees. So I think I might want somebody who knows a little bit about landscaping, design our nationally registered historic green. And I have also asked the commission, the council, I'm sorry, if they have reached out to the National Registry of Historic Places, the State Historic Preservation Office, and the Connecticut Designated Scenic Road Advisory Committee, because we have in national and state awards, and I would hate for that to be jeopardized in any way, shape, or form. These are awards that not everybody gets, and a lot of effort went in to preserve our green and put us on the map for tourism. And hopefully we are going to be pursuing an all-American national road soon too, because we have a jail and a courthouse right here, and nobody else does. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone on Zoom, so review of in-person public participation. Anyone else in the public? All right, going once.
Can I, I'm not sure if it's appropriate that, but we also got a lot of emails that people aren't here. I don't know if Katie can share
Yeah,
those right now.
That Councilman Maria will be sharing under item 12, which is correspondence to council. Outside of anything that was submitted in relation to the public hearing. All right, so going once, going twice. 3 times we'll move from public petitions to item 6, which is public hearing items. 6.1 is consideration of resolution for supplemental appropriations for one bridge improvement project. 802 to be funded 100% by state and federal funds.
I'm hoping I have Megan Moss online, but I may not. So this is, we applied for federal funding, state and federal funding for 4 bridges here in town. They're really actually culverts. Most are down in the industrial park off of Route 30. This 4th and last one that was just approved by the state and then the feds was for the culvert up off of South River Road. The cost is $2.9 million. Again, it will be 100% reimbursed through state and federal funding. However, we will have to fund it up front and then get reimbursed. We can't plan how we're going to fund it until we know the timelines and what is happening. And so this request today is allowing me to sign an award letter which is attached, to receive the, federal, state and federal funding.
Thanks. Are there any questions from council members before we open the public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing. So moved by Councilman Yudichak, seconded by Councilman Luba, and we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Murray? Councilor Khan? Vice Chair Reed?
Aye.
Councilor Luba?
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous, so the public hearing is now open. If anyone from the public would like to speak on agenda item 8.1, welcome to do so. Great, going once.
Excuse me.
Yep.
I have a question on that. How do we determine that this vehicle is obsolete?
No, this is 6.1, not, this is for the, bridge projects, not the,
I
vehicles.
just wondering what you say.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Well, I know I always miss stuff.
No problem.
We'll remind you when it comes up.
Yes,
Thanks.
I'll make it very clear. Aye. Seeing no further public discussion, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So by Councilor Luba, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Yudichak, and we'll do another roll call vote. Councilman Murray?
Aye.
I lost all audio. I didn't hear anything you said.
We're just going through the roll call.
I vote yes on this.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Khan? Vice Chair Regan? Aye. Councilor Luba?
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to 7.2, which is consideration of proposed revision to Article 6, Chapter subsection 136/21-30.1 of the Town Code, ordinance number 60, also known as the Local Tax Relief Program for Permanently Disabled and Senior Residents. And with us tonight, we also have our Town Assessor, Jason Lawrence, architect and founder, Bob Rubino, Human Services, Bev Bellady, and I believe other staff as needed.
That is correct. So in 2000, the program was started, as you said, to help provide tax relief to those in need of such. Amended in 2007, there was a plan to keep readjusting it. It kind of fell by the wayside. Council asked when I got hired last year to really reinvigorate this process. Thank God I had a team of Bob Rubino, Bev Bellady, and Jason Lawrence, the three to come together and really get this thing to where it is, where we're proposing today. It was an underutilized program, which you had charged me with making sure that we utilize it as fully as possible, and overly complicated, in my opinion, and others. They've gone to some great extent to make it simplified. We've tried to make some adjustments at the request of council over the last week, and we're prepared to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you, Brian. And I think just to clarify, I think I sent 2 questions over to Jason and Bob, and they provided some pretty thorough responses. But just to summarize, the reason why the program is every 2 years and we wouldn't want to extend it to every 3 or 4 years is due to a state required biennial filing. Is that correct?
Yeah, the statute that this piggybacks is straight off of biennial filing.
Okay, and then from the packet, it indicates that if we jump it from, I think what was originally proposed for 250 to 300, it adjusts the number of underserved from 46 to 39. And the percentage of the cap, which is a 0.05, goes up from 0.348 to 0.357. I think that leaves a fair amount of wiggle room for, I think, the proposed growth. I think, Bob, was it correct that you said maybe 25% increase? in the first year with the new adjustment, or was that Jason possibly?
You know, Steve, that's a real swag as far as by restructuring the program, by giving an immediate benefit in year one.
Yeah.
I think the idea is that you're gonna see some type of increase in participation, which I think was your goal.
Yes.
Is it 25%? Is it 50%? I don't have that crystal ball.
Okay.
All I can tell you is in 2000, there were 600 senior families in Tolland or households. And today that number is nearly tripled. So that 0.5% of total operating budget cap, something that I'm happy to see that you put in essentially a relief valve should we have over participation. But if that happens and you prorate the benefit, then you're actually doing harm perhaps to the spirit of providing benefit to those most in need. And I think you're trying to find the right balance between additional benefit and one that causes the program to potentially implode.
Yeah.
I think your crystal ball is better than mine.
Thank you, Bob. All right, any other questions from council members before we open the public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So
So by Councilor Luba, is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Seconded by Councilor Udacek. No worries. All right, we'll do a quick roll call vote. Councilor Murray? Aye. Vice Chair Egan? Aye. Councilor Luba?
I,
Councilor Udacek?
Aye.
Aye, so it's unanimous, so the public hearing for item 6.2 is now open. So if anyone from the public, online or in person, would like to speak on the proposed changes to ordinance 60, now is the time to do so. All right, going once, going twice.
May I speak as a citizen?
Yes, you may, Mr. Rubino.
Bob Rubino, 296 Whitehall. In working with Jason Lawrence on this for the past year, I think we worked hard to preserve the original spirit of the citizen study group back in 1999 that looked at creating tax relief for seniors, qualifying seniors, qualified in that they're at the bottom third of the income bracket in that demographic group, as well as the permanently disabled. And that as a tax freeze, the idea was, perhaps naively at the time, would be very simple to administer. That the year of entering, you pay $2,500 in taxes, you would pay $2,500 in taxes forever. However, we brought, there are a lot of moving wheels in this, not just in the town, but also at the state level. And it became very difficult, I think, for Jason and his team to administer. He almost spent a week every time the council would have to change the mill rate of pushing that effect down through the 155 to 200 families participating. Well, like I said, this step benefit mimics what we believe shooting down the center and then some of what the benefit is for people over time. And in talking about what that might be, the initial benefit of say $250, $300, and $100 for every year thereafter is something that I think is very easy for people to understand and budget for themselves, the applicant, and for the council to understand what is the cost of the program going to be for next year. So by adopting this step benefit, I'm very much looking forward to it. I applaud the council for taking this on in the light of diminishing participation, in which I think is a really good program. I thank you.
You, Mr. B. Any other public comment? Being none, I will entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
So by Counselor Luba, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Yudichak, and do a roll call vote. Counselor Murray. Aye. Vice Chair Egan. Aye. Counselor Luba.
Aye.
Counselor Yudichak.
Aye.
I am an aye, so that is unanimous, so the hearing is now closed. I actually just want to reiterate and thank you, Bob and Jason, for working together so collaboratively over the past year. I think this has been an ongoing discussion. We're really happy with what was put forward. Obviously, we made a little tweak, but I think just looking back at the program, I think it also works pretty well in that, it'll be reviewed following a property reval. And our next reval is in 2024, I believe. Is that correct, Jason? Right. So there'll be a 2-year period essentially where once the program's in place, I think they'll give the council an opportunity to make sure that the budget's in there. If there's any risk of going over budget, then hopefully the future council, we need to provide a more robust budget for it. I think that'll be beneficial. So just want to thank you and recognize that. Open the floor to any other questions or comments from council members. Councilor Cleveland?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would just echo your sentiments that I think it's something that, it's great to see this this revision bring our town code basically up to current speed and making it a little bit more user friendly, easier to use, more understandable, more predictable. And I think that it's a great achievement. I really applaud the team that put this together. All of you worked extremely hard. And I just express my thanks because I know that it's something that will only benefit the town in the long run. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Luba. Then Councilor Yudichak.
I know, I was just letting you know Lou was reading.
I appreciate it. Although Lou's comments did remind me of one other comment I wanted to make is, obviously, once this goes through, I think the next big step is, and I know no one has a crystal ball, but I think getting to that 25 or even 50% is promoting, advocating, informing, and educating. So I strongly encourage the town manager to work with Jason, Bev, and Kim at the senior center to provide as much programming and information as possible to really draw people back into this program. Because I think like you've said in the past, people found it to be too complicated and didn't think it was worth it to take the time to figure out everything. So a simplified process, like you'll know that exists, maybe some longer time residents that dropped out of the process will come back into the fold. All right, with that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as outlined in 6.2.
Steve, would it be okay if I spoke first?
Yes, sorry, go ahead, Katie. I didn't see your hand up. My apologies.
It's okay. I just wanted to recognize that this program is important. And we have a real gem of Bob Rubino in his willingness to donate his time to help with this program. I know in previous conversations with Bob, this was something that he took up when he was on council a number of years ago. And at this point, Bob is retired from being on town council, yet he still shows a strong commitment to our community in helping our town staff work on this program. So I just wanted to make sure that we really called out that this program has a lot of community support, and from Bob Rubino, especially, is exemplifying how awesome our community really can be in coming together to support each other. So thank you very much, Bob. I know I'm echoing sentiments of my colleagues, but you really stood up this time again for Ordinance 60, and it's greatly appreciated. I also wanted to thank Councillor Khan. This program is something that Councillor Khan and I have been talking about at his request for my entire term here, and this has been a major priority of his. For me, Sammy really carried this within the council, and that's very much in the spirit of Sammy. So thank you very much for that, and for all the town staff who made this happen.
Thank you, Councilor Murray. Appreciate those comments. All right, so we have the motion and the second by Councilor Luba and Councilor Yudichak. So we will go through the roll call vote, and we'll start with Councilor Murray.
Aye.
Councilor Khan, Vice Chair Regan. Aye. Councilman Booth,
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. That brings us to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. Fire subcommittee did not meet this month, we'll be meeting next month. Land acquisition advisory committee met last Thursday. After an executive session, we opted to vote to have the planning development director commission an assessment of the Tolland Marsh area to not exceed, I believe, $3,500. And then we'll reconvene once that assessment is done to discuss further negotiations for the property. And those funds are used out of the open space fund. And that is it for me, ARPA subcommittee.
Yes, we had a special meeting on May 15th. We were busy that night. So a couple of the items is gonna be, well, yeah, voted on possibly later on tonight regarding the ADA walkway. The subcommittee decided to put the veterans part as part of the whole package, so that it wasn't two different requests, so that's up to $400,000. I just want to make it clear, it's the vote to use the money doesn't mean the project, depending on how the project folds out. If that money is not used, it's returned to the town council, or actually the community, because it's actually their money. And then there's some other things we discussed. The Tolland Soccer League had requested lighting throughout their field, but with the cost so high, it was over $1 million. And just, we'll leave it on the list, but if we have money, we'll possibly use it there, but it would have taken up half the money we have left. We also talked about the bulky waste at that meeting, because people are upset that we won't have that in the next budget cycle, but the finance director and the town manager, hoping to work with Mike Wilkinson on finding other savings before they actually need a final request again from us. And then Tolland Boy Scouts, on further on the agenda, request of $1,500. That's to help cover the cedar shingles of the gazebo at the park. They fundraised $1,700. And then, sorry, one more item we talked about. We also talked about the Tolland Veterans Commission consideration for the $17,000. Unfortunately, there was more operational items on there that we just thought that the town would be able to carry over. I did give the courtesy of talking to the Veterans Liaison Lou, just a heads up about it. So I don't know if you talked to them, but that's all I have for we discussed. Brian, did I miss anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Get some stuff I forgot about.
So that's what I have. If anybody has questions, but.
I have one, but we can talk about it offline too, or if you know, I saw, I think that a couple of projects were removed, I don't know if any others were removed because of cost or.
We went through it, no, I think it was mostly cost, it just, some of them were sitting on a while, I think Mr. Foley thought he could find other sources, somewhere with other grants, right, things like that.
Okay.
And some of them, one was the splash pad, I know, Rooney would love that, but the cost of that. Tammy had done some research, and I think you did too, and it was just to maintain a splash pad and do everything with that would be millions of dollars, so. I think we have probably 1.5 left over if we use, tonight. I know I talked to Mr. Foley about it. I would like to add on I listened to the historic district meeting the other night. About the lighting, there's 3 lamps or lights on the green at the historic district. Has been locked in, so I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna put in a request for that to discuss, so. I think I heard that's like $10,000 or something.
There's about 14, yeah. There's a quote from Scott Lappin that
Okay.
Lisa Hancock has. I believe I have a copy of it too.
Yeah, so,
3, they're not on the green. They're in the historic district. They're over at the intersection of Tolland Green and 74.
okay, further down, okay.
Yeah, right where the stop sign is. That
Yep.
seems to be a rather dark area, and we've had a lot of cars not realize there's a turn there, and we keep getting debris and vehicles on the green. The last one was an Acura and Integra that blew out all its wheels.
Right,
and
so,
then two more down towards the Welcome to the Historic District to the Senior Center where the state had put in that new concrete sidewalk.
oh,
We were
yeah,
looking to extend that down to the historic district because we do have a lot of people that like to walk at night and it's dark down there.
okay. Yeah, so I'll reach out to you, Jody, if you have a quote, or I think Brian, you might have a quote from Lisa, but I think it's worth at least putting it on and talking about it.
No, I think
Thank
that's good. All right, so that brings us to 7B, reports of town council liaisons, and I'll start with Councilor Murray.
Was not able to attend a historic district commission meeting last week due to my new job, but I did have an email conversation with Jody about some things. And I listened to the meeting. Waiting for them to come out.
Okay, thank you, Katie. And this is a quick heads up. We're having some slight audio issues. I know you're remote, so I'm sure there might be some issues, but if there's any chance you can speak closer into the mic. I don't know if that might help.
Sure. Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, if you lean in, I think that helps.
I'll just repeat what I said. I was not able to make the historic district commission meeting last week due to my new job responsibilities. I did have a email conversation with Jody and listened to the meeting. Still waiting for the minutes to come out.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Murray. Councilor Khan.
I don't know if I'm good.
All right, nice to meet you.
So I did attend WPCA on the 16th. Unfortunately, I'm having some computer difficulties. I can't get out my notes, so I have to refer you to the minutes on that. And planning and zoning did meet last night, and I was unable to make that meeting, so I will refer you to the minutes on that one as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Water Commission canceled their meeting due to lack of quorum. They'll be reconvening in June. And I believe that is it for me. So, Councilor Luba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As far as Veterans Recognition Commission, I was unable to attend because of work obligations. But I know that it's been something that's been significantly covered. That I would refer people to the minutes and the discussion later on in this meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Luba. Councilor Yurcheck.
Sure, Commission on People with Disabilities met last week. It was done in 31 minutes, so thank you, Erin. So one thing I should have asked offline to Sammy and Lou, but they were looking for a member vacancy update. There's still.
Which one?
Commission on People with Disabilities.
Oh,
Tell me later. They did ask specifically.
they did, okay, because I don't call. I thought that we filled all the positions on it, but I'll go back to my notes.
Kim Little, unfortunately, just stepped down, so. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if there's, that I'll take a look through again, but that Attorney Khan and I thought we were up to date on everything.
That's okay, so I can tell them that you're working on it.
Yep.
So like I reported on the ATA, what we're gonna be talking about, so a lot of conversation was around ADA's sidewalks. I think Deb and I, the two of us covered it pretty good, and just more ideas on engagement to the community. Again, it was a short meeting, our chair wasn't there, she's away, so. But that was all I.
All right, thank you, Councilor Yurcheck. So that brings us to item 8. So 8.1, consideration of a resolution to declare vehicles obsolete from the Board of Education. And this was the 2005 Crown Vic, I believe, Brian, and maybe probably to answer a resident's inquiry is how does the board determine obsolete equipment?
In a nutshell, when the cost to keep it running outweighs the value of the vehicle and repairs just start to become astronomical. It's not worth very much. If it is sold to either Bill's Auto Parts or if someone had expressed an interest in it, the money would go into the CNRE. And I believe they've already bought a replacement vehicle. I'm almost certain at a cost of $5,100. I don't believe we have anyone from the board of that.
And if you know, if you don't, it's okay, but the purpose of that red Crown Vic was that for,
Public safety off of the school, SRO.
yeah, okay. So they're replacing the SRO's vehicle.
They have a new one replacement. Yep.
All right. Are there any other questions from council members? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution outlined in 8.1.
So moved.
So by Councilor Luba, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Yudichak. It's good, it's gonna be you guys tonight. All right, we'll do the roll call vote. Councilman Murray. All right, Councilor Khan. Vice Chair Egan. Councilor Luba.
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. That brings us to 8.2, which is consideration of a resolution for various ARPA subcommittee funding use recommendations. And I believe I saw it in the back tonight. I just want to make sure I'm correct. Is that Mr. Beck back there?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you coming. So we have for one of the items, the gazebo renovations, and the second item is the ADA sidewalks on town green and veterans area project, but I'll let town manager fully continue.
Sure, I'll start with the PEX. Thank you for coming. As part of his Eagle Scout project, you volunteering to replace the roof at Crandall's at the Veterans Park. The roof had been cedar shingles. Mr. Peck actually purchased cedar shingles. We couldn't find anybody to install them, which is very complicated. There had been some decisions to not use asphalt shingles. When I re-examined those, when I got here, it was determined that the asphalt shingles are just fine, and certainly a lot more economical and easier to install. So this is basically the funding for that. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
That's it. So that's where we are for that. And then the others, 400,000 is for obviously ADA sidewalks on our town green, and the veterans, the access for disabled veterans to their monument.
Okay, and I know Councilman Murray had sent in a series of questions to you. Could you perhaps summarize some of those questions and provide?
Okay.
Council?
1 second.
I think some of them included.
I have them in front of me if you want me to ask them.
Sure, go ahead, Councilman Murray.
So the first one is what input has the Historic District Commission had on this process?
The process started back in about 2021, according to Director Bellady, that this process to get ADA on the green started prior to my arrival. And I believe they were involved in those conversations from the beginning. When I got here, I was tasked with coming up with a solution for the walkway. I've met with Jody. Thank you for coming tonight. And she's met with me a couple times graciously on her own time, as well as Mrs. Bach I've met with a couple times in regards to exactly this and trying to come to some sort of compromise. So there has been conversations. I'm sure it's open to interpretation as to how fruitful those conversations have been.
Oh, you're muted again.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. What about the Commission on People with Disabilities? What input have they had on this process?
I work closely with Director Bellady on this, and she is are you the liaison on the she's the liaison. Of course, I've talked with why is her name escaping me? Annalise mom, Susan Lusick. Who's here? And I spoke with her several times, trying to keep them aware of what's going on.
What are the advantages and disadvantages to using the concrete that is in the plan that's before?
Concrete is the optimal ADA surface to use. Concrete is what is on the green right now. It's what the state of Connecticut put down on several locations on the green. If you look outside the window, you will see on the green in several locations. I know, Katie, you can't look out the window, but if you could, concrete already exists on our town green, as that is the best material to use. I do not think the state was asked to put stone dust down. I don't think they were asked to lessen their standard as to what to put on the green in regards to ADA. You see concrete walkways that the state put down. If you go just south of Old Post Road on 195. There is a concrete walkway right through the historic district, almost immediately adjacent to the curb, maybe a slight foot or two of a buffer zone. Concrete sidewalks are all throughout the district, and they're within throughout the town. If you go drive down to Crandall's, one, you have trees all along the concrete sidewalks, and the trees are thriving. Two, as you go by the dam, there is less than a foot between the sidewalk and the road. And that is a narrow, curvy, dark road where our children attend and play at Lions Field and the park. There's a playground, basketball courts, football, softball, pavilion, and otherwise there for the sidewalk. The concrete sidewalk that we're planning, I met with our resident state trooper and our public safety director and talking about traffic safety. Clearly, where the mats are now is probably 10 or 12 feet further from the roadway than the sidewalks I just mentioned. And the sidewalk that we're planning is in the center of green and obviously well within a safe zone. The orange fence was put up to accommodate a request from someone on the agricultural commission who I respect and wanted to feel comfortable, as the temporary walkway is not where the ADA walkway is intended to go. Director Lappin, I believe, is on here. He can really elaborate on the difficulties with stone dust. Scott, if you're on, can you unmute? He might not be on. Let me just text and see if he's there.
I'll push the X button just in case. There
Can you
you go.
hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now, Scott. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott, can you tell us some of the disadvantages of stone dust economically, work-wise, and ADA-wise?
Sure. As everybody's very familiar with the ADA requirements, you know there are requirements for elevation changes, cross slope changes. You need something that's really a permanent surface in order to achieve those. Stone dust will not work for that, just based on the fact that if it gets wet, it's a lot like a sponge. It tends to hold the water for a while and then it slowly seeps out. If you have somebody walking on the stone dust or using a wheelchair, they're going to leave ruts, footprints. Somebody with a walker is more than likely going to have a very difficult time traversing across stone dust, whereas with a harder surface such as concrete, it's much easier for anybody who's using them. Stone dust is typically used as the base coat, or course, I should say, under pavers, whether they're brick, they're stone. I mean, that's a standard in anybody who does hardscaping. It's they lay down pipes and put stone dust down. They set these on, and when you add water to it, it tends to tighten it up a little bit, but it's not really a lot different than a very coarse sand. The big difference between the two is the sand will let the water go through, but it doesn't have any hardening factors to it. Along with the fact that if you're doing a stone dust sidewalk, unless you put in barriers along the edges, this material is slowly going to creep into the grass. The last thing DPW needs is more maintenance as far as weed whacking, cleaning up the stone dust, making its way out into the grassy areas. We'd like to be able to mow right up alongside it. And if there's stone going out into the grass, now that becomes a potential for somebody getting hurt, equipment being damaged, and so on.
All right, thank you, Director Lappin. A lot was made of the green in Lebanon. The green in Lebanon, for those of you who don't know, is a massive, beautiful area where they have a stone dust trail around it. That is a hayfield. It is maybe the only green that is still used for agricultural purposes. If you go there now, good luck walking across it. The grass is about knee high and it'll be baled in a little while. I've been to the farmer's market in Lebanon. They have a fantastic farmer's market. It is nowhere near stone dust. It is entirely on a paved and concrete surface and entirely ADA accessible. I have to side with Director Lappin in his opinion, and that Bellady in her opinion, in that the concrete surface is the most reliable and best option to ensure that our green is enjoyed by everybody.
What about pavers?
Pavers are an option, certainly vastly more expensive and would need a lot of maintenance as well. Anyone that has a paver walkway knows that, it has to be re-level, reset. I understand pavers and natural stone might be a great option for the veterans area, whichever they decide is fine with me. But as far as the entire length of the green, again, the state of Connecticut has concrete as their standard. They were put it onto our green already in several directions and around town and around the green. And I don't think we should lower our standards for our disabled community. And if the state wasn't asked to, I don't think we should do it either.
Can you address the concerns that stamped concrete could be slippery?
Sure, it can be. It all depends on how the surface, on what surface you choose to put it down, the texture that goes with it. I will say this, I'm not married to the stamped concrete. The state of Connecticut Department of Transportation did not do stamped concrete. I'm fine with brushed concrete and we'd save a whole lot of money. The stamped concrete was an idea to assuage the people that thought that they wanted a historic look as a stamped concrete could be done in a cobblestone or brick manner to have at least a historic type of appearance. I would leave the finish and appearance of the concrete to the discretion of the historic district, or at least consult with them on it and weigh heavily their opinion on that. I've made that offer. So not married to the stamped concrete. I'm fine with going to the brushed. That's what you see all over the green already, literally on our grass green right out front. I'm fine with going to that. Slippery can be addressed if we do go to stamped concrete by the person who applies it by adding texture to the top of it.
And what about the concerns that stamped concrete doesn't wear well?
Depends on the quality of the contractor and how well they put it down. There are certain sealants you can put down and maintain it that are inexpensive and very easy. They brush on with a paint roller and go on very fast, or you can spray them on and roll them in. So there are sealants you can put on, as with any concrete. The better you take care of them, the longer they last.
Those were the only questions I had emailed. I do have a few more. Would it be okay if I kept asking questions?
Go ahead, shoot in the head.
Go for it, Councilor Murray. You have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm interested procedurally. What are we voting on tonight?
So we are voting on, just pulling up the agenda. So in addition to the Boy Scouts gazebo project, it's $400,000 for the use of ADA sidewalks on the town green and improvements including ADA access for the Veterans Area project. And I believe, just to piggyback on maybe what you're asking, I believe it was required as a part of putting this proposal forward that a rough design had to be presented to the council. I think as a part of the ARPA expenditure process. Is that correct, Brian?
As far as I know, I did it as in an effort to be as transparent as possible and share it publicly. Is the reason the drawing was shared. As soon as I got it to the chair of the Historic District Commission first, then to everybody else. But that was the reason. I think as a town responsibly, we should have a plan in place. It was basically, the design was done to get us an estimate as to how much money we would allot for the project.
And sorry, just to continue, Councilor Murray, so essentially you could have just said, you want to do this project and brought forward no plan.
Correct.
And just come with it later, but instead, in the essence of providing a rough concept, you provided an example of what could be done.
Much of that was flushed out through the ARPA Commission under the direction of Councilperson Udacek. That is really the process we've done for most of the stuff that we put our promise. We try to get the best estimate and an idea so that the ARPA Commission can make a well-informed decision, of which they voted obviously unanimously to forward this to council.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilman Murray, for letting me interject for a moment.
Oh, thank you, Steve. So we aren't being asked to vote on approval of this plan before us tonight. Is that correct? We're just being asked to vote on whether we can commit up to $400,000 in ARPA funds toward a sidewalk project on the green. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that is what I am hearing from Democrat Foley and.
I thought
Yeah.
it was, can I respond a little bit to that?
Yeah, Councilman Yudichak.
Brian, please fill in if you want to. Yes, Katie, like I said earlier, it's like anything else that we vote on that comes to the council as we were charged to do. Just want to make you aware that it is bipartisan when we make these decisions, and we do fully try to vet everything we can at the request of counselors in the past to be able to make a better informed decision. Yes, it's up to $400,000. That is what Brian had given us. And if that changes again, he would have to come back to us. Or it just doesn't work out. It gets returned back to the council. So it's not, you know, here's 400,000, go buy it, Brian. It's more, he still did a lot more work to do with it.
We do.
Yeah.
I guess, but I think if I'm understanding Ms. Murray's question is it this specific project, like this specific proposal, or is it just allocation of 400,000 where there's going to be some type of, basically, this is the starting point, but that it could evolve into something else along the states with the $400,000. I mean, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Murray.
My understanding was that we were moving forward with the project.
But not this plan that's in front of us, just a project.
Because, yeah, as you said, I think the stamped concrete could be.
There are
could
changes.
be-
This is a rough design, but really where we want to be in regards to what we brought from ARPA. And in discussion, I was brought here and asked to make a decision. There was obviously much debate for years here in town. I was the subject of personal attacks, which I enjoy. I was called a liar. My type of car that I drive was brought to staff, and I get all that, and that's why I'm here, and I really welcome it. But I was asked to make a decision and weigh everything by council. All of you asked me, hired me to wade through this project, and I knew that we couldn't make everybody here in the town happy. The project is a ADA concrete walkway down the green, somewhat towards the center, around the tree. I know that's not in the drawing, but that would be adjusted to have a semicircle around it for plenty of growth with the tree. The only tree that will be removed is the dying pine tree here. And certainly we could make adjustments as needed, and I welcome that. And I welcome that discussion. But again, I think we need to make a decision and move forward. Again, the state was not asked to lower their ADA standards. Why are we? And they put concrete sidewalks throughout. So I'm on the understanding that we're approving this to move forward with some adjustments to be made.
Thank you. Councilman Murray? Are you all set just before I open the floor to?
Thank you for that clarification, because I think it's important. I tend to agree that this has been a long process, and I too am looking forward to a resolution so that we as a community can work on accepting it and then moving forward to build it. So thank you very much. I know that there are numerous concerns about how we go about doing this. However, in previous council meetings, when we've had these discussions, there have been a lot of various suggestions that have been brought before us. I am a little bit concerned about the number of suggestions that have come in from the Historic District Commission most recently. If I'm incorrect, then I hope that Brian will correct me, but we don't need to go through planning and zoning for this, right, Brian? We don't need to go through design advisory board. We are ready to make a decision and move forward. Is that correct?
As I read it, we are only subject to advice only from the Historic District Commission. And I know of no requirements that say we have to or don't have to go through zoning.
Thank you. I hope that we can come to a resolution on this project either tonight or very soon so that we can move forward on accepting whatever decision we make and making our sidewalk, our green more accessible to more people. Thank you.
Any other counselors with questions?
Yeah.
All right,
Oh, you want to go first? Okay.
Counselor Nevichak, then Victor Reed, and then Counselor Kuba.
Katie stole some of my questions, you know, some of them were already answered, I do apologize, because I. So you've answered the questions about the slippery sidewalks, we're not married to any particular type of design of it yet, there's still a lot of work, I've also heard concerns about the veterans do not want stamped concrete, I was understanding, Brian, that is not what they said to you.
I had a meeting with Vern Maynard, the chair, where he extolled the virtues of stamped concrete on 2 occasions and how much he liked them. Of course, that was not a final decision. That was a conversation. And that's what he said. And I told him, that's your option. You decide that and work with the Historic Commission, please, in coming to an understanding of that. We discussed it exactly that in our ARPA commission. And that's what was said. And I'm not, again, that's their call. It's a veterans area. But again, if they can't come up with a decision together, we're going to move forward with preference given to the veterans for the veterans, disabled veterans access area.
Is Director of Public Works still here?
Yeah, I still see.
So. Scott, how much work would it be during the summer? To maintain, I guess partly during the winter if it needs to be shoveled as well, would that be a lot of work for your department or very minimal?
Am I unmuted?
You're good, Scott. I muted you. All right.
Okay, thanks, Steve. As far as maintenance, we take care of the sidewalks in front of the town hall now, up to the neighbor to the south, up to their driveway. Then we go down and we take care of the sidewalks from the area that Jody was talking about where she wants to add more lights. We already do that with a machine. If we only get a couple inches of snow, the tractor that we use has a broom on the front of it, so it wouldn't damage whatever finish is on these sidewalks, whether it's a sealer, whether it's a broom finish, whether it's stamped concrete. The broom is just like sweeping it off. We go up one side and come down the other. As far as during the summer months and so on, we can get right up next to it with a mower. We don't have to weed whack. We don't have to go out and trim around them with a shovel like, a lot of people do at home. It's it'll add a little bit more work just because you're not zipping straight across, but it's not something that's that much more difficult for us.
And obviously, but how much more would this cost the town? I know this town's very, including me, is very cost conscientious. Would this be something that would be a big financial burden for the community?
Which part are you asking on the financial?
The DPW taking care of the maintenance on the drainage.
No, Director Lappin has assured me that if as designed, as planned in this drawing, absent minor changes, that he can easily facilitate that. Keep in mind, they're down a staff person that was cut a couple of years ago, that we've been looking to refill, and we'll consider it again in the next budget year. But he's assured me that. Director Lappin, is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Like less than probably 1 day an hour, or maybe 1 or 2 hours. Sure.
Well, I don't want to guess on what it is, but he's assured me.
Depending on the severity, yeah.
So just want some answers to some of the questions that the public did ask. So as far as the ADA, I know it's always been a commission of disabilities and the historic district, and as I understand, this is only my second 1.5 years on the council, but I have been following the council for at least 6 years. So I know this has been an ongoing conversation. And if I remember right, at the capital budget, the 7 of us said, we need to do this. Like, we need to add it in the capital budget. We need to get going. We need to make a commitment, and that's a responsibility of the community. If I remember right, Tammy said, gotta make the tough decisions. So then that's why it came back to our subcommittee, because giving it to us, making a decision, and how we vote tonight, it won't hurt the capital budget impact to the taxpayers of the community. So that is, basically, I think how it unfolded. It's just, we wanted to make a decision and get moving on it. I expect Brian will have continuous conversations with the Historic District Commission with People with Disabilities and the Veterans Commission along the way.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head, councilperson, you check it. They're tough decisions. And I know I'm going to upset with this plan, bringing it forward. I've made cause some consternation, and I value Jody and the work she does so much, and all the people on the commission. I have friends, that reached out and were dead set against the concrete, and they were concerned about speaking because we're friends. I said, absolutely, speak your mind, please bring it forward. I enjoy the process and the input, but again, they're tough decisions. If you want to talk about the law enforcement decision that was made, I've had to make tough decisions in my life, brutally ones, that I don't ever want to speak of again. And I'm here to make that decision. I think it's what's best for our town. I want to win awards too. I'd like to win an award for ADA accessibility in our town. And with all the stuff we've done in the ball fields, as you know, we still continue ADA walkways on the ball fields on the ARPA agenda as well. Down to the soccer field is one of them. So tough decision. I feel horrible that it's distasteful to many, but I believe it's what's best for the town.
And I know Katie's kind of touch base with emails we've got, but I do feel as a liaison for the Disability Commission, we have been working very hard. I believe, they believe, I think everybody should have accessibility to such a degree, or, everything in town. And like Brian just said, we're working very hard in the subcommittee to bring all these things to you, the council. So, again, it's not favorable, however we vote, but I do believe that a community, everybody has a right to be on using the green, either if you're older, your mom pushing a, pushing a carriage or whatever it is. It's just very important thing to put in that town and invest in.
Thank you, Councilman Duchek. So Vice Chair Regan and then Councilor Dupla. And then I have one question unless Councilor Luba gets it. He might.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've been circling around this thing for 10 or 15 minutes or so. I just need to be perfectly crystal clear what I'm voting on. A yes vote for this allocates up to $400,000 to put sidewalks on the green. Is that where it ends, or are we putting, does a yes vote put stamped concrete on the green?
No, I'm open. Well, you tell me, but I'm open to flexibility
So
on
we
that.
could turn around and say, we want crushed stone. We could turn around and say that.
You could,
Okay.
absolutely. You could say brushed, you could say whatever you decide. I work at the pleasure of all of you.
That's all I need to know.
All right.
Good to go.
I think that's John, and I didn't want to cut you off. I believe that's how the motion's even made. It's just up to, it's not specifically to something attached.
I know, I just need to get it straight in my head.
Yeah, the resolution,
yeah.
the resolution does not clearly indicate
Yeah.
what type of, design, this is just kind of a general markup of what could be done and to direct a strong intent. I think Brian put forward a defense of his, proposal, but obviously, like he said, it can be changed. We can bring it back to the council for future conversations, and there's other opportunities throughout the process.
Got it.
But
Oh, go ahead.
we need to have a conversation. I just want to say, I believe the $400,000 is for this quote, with up to 400,000.
Yeah.
So if Brian needs to come back, if he wants further quotes, might come back and ask for more funds. So again, if it's,
Yeah.
it just up to 400, but more could be requested. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, it's comparable to the tennis courts where we
Right.
allocated a certain amount of funding and we had to come
I
back
just
and
wanted
add
to-
additional, the cost was higher.
So John's out like, but you only said 400, 400 plus, but then the different quote comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, Council Luba?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. For full transparency, that I think it's something that what I'm voting on today is the proposal that Mr. Foley has put forward. And I think it's time that we move forward on something that, and I understand, Ms. Reagan, and the question as far as, well, we could change it. You, the three of us have been up here for 4 years discussing this. This goes back at least 6 or 7 years that has been discussed. And we're getting to the point now where it's analysis paralysis. Everybody could, what if, and what about this, and what about this? This is now probably the 5th time that we've just addressed what is the proposal going to be. We went from, we shouldn't have any sidewalks in the green. You know, and that the bluestone is the only thing that's acceptable. And then we should level out the bluestone and do this because of keeping the historical perspective of it. And then once we found that that wasn't effective, then the proposal came up at that time of the gravel. And then there were people that said no to the gravel because it wasn't historically accurate and because it would detract from the beauty of the green. And then we have, I mean, I lost count on how many different things we've had. And now we're finally at a point where we have a solid proposal, you know, a solid way forward. And I want to go forward with this. I think this is the way that we need to go forward. I think that the more that we keep open, the more that there's open for discussion, the more that we just spin our wheels. And we're gonna end up with the council 5 years from now saying, why didn't they just vote on something? Why didn't they just approve something? I know that there's, you know, I agree with Mr. Foley and I agree with everybody here. We're not gonna make anybody happy. But by not making anybody happy, you know, we at least have to do something. That it may not be exactly what the veterans want, it may not be exactly what the commission for people with disabilities want, it may not be what the historic district wants. But that's what our job is, and that's what I'm doing here today. This is an incredibly hard decision. This is one that I've been looking at and trying to figure out what's the right way forward. I think what we have presented for us is the right way forward. And I think that we can go back and take a separate discussion that we had. When we were discussing, I think last term, when we were discussing the use of the green. And we expanded, we changed the town code to expand and make the green more accessible. And if we take a look at the history, I mean, everybody's saying, you need to take a look at the history of what the green is. What is the history of the green? The green is meant for people to gather, to share opinions, to discuss things, and that's where we would have the farmers market. That's where people would be out there. And that's where they would share the opinions and be able to gather. Right now, it's not someplace that anyone can gather. The only ones that can gather are people that can walk on the grass and that can easily access it. It's inaccessible to anyone else. That temporary sidewalk that we have up there is not something that we should be relying upon to go forward. That is meant for a temporary purpose. We need something permanently there so that we can develop around it. And I understand what the historic district is saying, that we have the town, we have the county courthouse. We have the jail, we have the candy store, we have a bunch of other things. Those are still gonna be there. If anything, that will make, this sidewalk will make it even more accessible. That it will give people the opportunity to come to the green and actually enjoy it, rather than just looking at it. That it makes it more accessible for people that want to take part in the holiday tree or any other functions. It gives people that opportunity to go through there and use this. And so I think it's something that, again, looking at the true history, if we're gonna go talk about the history of the town green, the history of the town green is a gathering. It's where people come to gather. You would have the town criers out there announcing the news, gathering people together. And I think it's something that we really, you know, if we're gonna go back to what the history of it is, that's what it is. And we are just expanding on that history and making it more accessible for everybody. And I think that, you know, that my request is that we go forward to vote on it. And my vote is going to be yes on it. I think it's something that we need to do, that if we leave any opportunity for any type of discussion, other than going forward, well, what we have planned, then this will continue to be an issue going forward, because there's not gonna be any consensus, complete consensus amongst anyone, because we haven't had consensus for the past 6 years on this. And for the past 10 meetings that we've had on this, every time there's gonna be something else, and I think it's just time for us to say, this is our hard job, this is our job, this is the town council's opportunity, or the obligation to move forward, and that's what we need to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And going about obligations, you did not take my question, but.
Yeah, I know, I was challenging you, but I want to give you that opportunity.
So I heard Scott, you said at one point that you go up until a certain point and then you stop. Is that correct in terms of the side of the green that we're currently on with the town hall?
Correct.
Because you have liability to clean those sidewalks, make them accessible to the public, is that correct? That's,
Yes. Yeah. Anything that's on town property, we clear off.
and that's why in the past, when we had discussions about resetting the stones and changing the format, there was a lot of concern about touching those stones, because if they were broken by town, either town staff or whoever's contracted out, the residents could either block it, or if there's any damage, they could go after the town for liability.
Correct. Those are actually on private property.
And so that's why this proposal actually creates a dedicated municipally owned ADA compliant sidewalk that connects to other sidewalks green that are equally municipally owned. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That was just one point. I figured you might bring up the liability, so.
Yeah, no, I was thinking it, and I got it lost in my notes here.
No, it's okay. I'm glad I brought it up. So that was the only question I just wanted to clarify too, in regards to the proposed project. So are there any other discussions, questions, comments from council members? All right, seeing none, I will just make a double check to make sure the resolution, it's 2 separate votes for each item. There we go. So I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as drafted in item 8.2.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Luba. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Yudichak, and we shall conduct a roll call vote. Councilor Murray. Councilor Khan. Vice Chair Regan. Aye. Councilor Luba.
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak.
Aye.
And I am an aye, so that is unanimous. Agenda items have been passed. And just again, I want to thank everyone for the robust conversation. And just also want to give a shout out to Mr. Pack and your family for showing up tonight, and appreciate your advocacy for the gazebo. That brings us to item 8.3, which is appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions. I would entertain a motion to approve the reappointment of members outlined in 8.3A for the Technology Advisory Board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Regan. All right, all those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilor Murray,
Aye.
Councilor Khan, Vice Chair Regan, Councilor Luba,
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to 9, old business. We have none. That brings us to item 10, report of the town manager. So, Mr. Foley, I think as you've probably seen from public comment, I think conversations from various council members, I think you'll be giving an update on the incident Sunday night.
I will. So let's focus on that for my town manager's report. As everyone here is aware, on Sunday night, our town was the victim of a call it a hostile street takeover on Route 195 Merrill Road, just out in front of the Big Y. Approximately 10 p.m., I got a phone call at the request of our fire chief and the public safety dispatchers at TN, and they called me, informed me of an event going on in town. I received text messages from various members of council as well. I reached out to a resident. One, let me pause. I could hear it from my house. I reached out to the resident state trooper, who reached out to Troop C to determine what was going on. He confirmed that what was going on and that they were aware. The safety of our town and the safety of our residents and our citizens is really our highest priority, and the protection thereof. The incident itself lasted about 25 minutes, where they blocked the road, did some street stunting, skidding and such. It's all on video. I'd like to remind anyone that's saying anything about who was at the thing, I promise you there were Tolland kids at that event. A plurality of them, to say the least. At any rate, the event occurred. During the event, we've all seen the video of a woman whose vehicle was attacked and damaged. It was traumatizing to her. But I want to emphasize that there was no physical injury, and we were incredibly lucky to do it. I said before, I understand how hard it is to make a decision. I've made horrible decisions that have resulted in immediate death. This decision that was made on how to police this street takeover by the troop commander up in Troop C was a difficult one. And I respect that they made a decision. They made it in a quick fashion. I certainly don't agree with the decision. I believe it was an underinformed decision. And I'll explain underinformed in that 911 calls come in. At some point, a supervisor will reach out to the commander and explain what's going on and look for some direction. My hunch, and we'll confirm this tomorrow, I'll get into that, is that I don't think maybe the information got relayed to the troop commander who made the decision to stand down. I have an expectation when something like this happens, like an expectation, as someone had said earlier, that when our citizens call 911, that they get a response, an emergency response. The decision was made to stand down, and we are incredibly lucky that nobody was hurt. No, we can't send police officers into a crowd to disperse tear gas and make mass arrests with only 2 or 3 cops. My minimum expectation is that 2 or 3 cruisers park 100 yards up the road, 200 yards up the road, lights and sirens on to begin to act as a deterrent. That will immediately start to thin some of the crowd, understanding that more police officers are likely on the way. The decision was a one-off. That is not a policy of the Connecticut State Police. I've spoken with the colonel and the commissioner since then. Tomorrow we have a meeting with our state representative, our state senator, the colonel and the commissioner of the Connecticut State Police to at very minimum really discuss. And I know others want to harp on the decision that was made to stand down. I get it. I'm certain that's going to happen on an internal review, which we will ask for an internal review of what occurred that night. But really, it's about protecting our citizens moving forward and what decisions will be made moving forward and having a plan. A plan is in place for mass disturbances already in the town of Tolland, all around the state of Connecticut. All law enforcement agencies engage in what is called a blue plan. A blue plan is what occurs when there's something big happening and we need extra police protection. Something I'm painfully familiar with from the many disturbances over the last 10 years. Pick one cause and the disturbances that we responded to and activated the blue plan for. And it works, it functions. Again, this I believe was a one-off decision. I fear and hurt for the confidence that our town members have lost in our resident trooper program. I've lived in this town for 53 years. I've had family members plural, that were resident troopers in this town. I've watched policing in this town intimately over the last 10 years at least. Let's say as soon as I had a daughter, I really started to pay attention. I believe that the way our resident trooper program is currently situated, these are the best 4 troopers that I've seen as a whole in our town. And our town could not be any better policed with those 4 troopers. And I don't say that lightly. We are an incredibly safe town. And I want to remind anyone that's listening, no one was injured. We are very fortunate that we are talking about an incident where no one was injured. And a decision was made that I certainly disagree with. I believe moving forward, when we meet with the state tomorrow, that they will have a better plan in place should this happen again. We will discuss on how to prevent this from happening again. And the prevention involves intelligence, it involves resources, and it involves a plan on how to do it. Today, before the lawmakers, a bill was brought up on the forming of a task force to address these. Tolland was one town of many that are randomly hit with these street takeovers. And I hope that it doesn't happen again. I know there will be a strong reaction should it happen again. We are very lucky, but I will ensure that our state representative will ensure that, and our state senator will ensure that tomorrow that we are well protected moving forward, and that all efforts are made to A, have a plan, and B, thwart these from even happening in the first place. I thank the Connecticut State Police for making an arrest the other night in relation to this. They're doing their best they can to gather intelligence and make arrests, and they did that the other night, and I hope many more are coming. I do not believe the person who's arrested was involved in the car damage to the woman's car or the damage to our town ambulance. However, hopefully it's a step in the right direction. Again, I want to reiterate, this is a safe town. We have great resident troopers and we have great coverage from the Connecticut State Police at Troop C. This is a one-time decision that will be scrutinized, I'm sure, internally with the Connecticut State Police. Again, I spoke to the commissioner and I spoke to the colonel. I will not echo their thoughts, but I'm sure there will be some review of what happened. We will ask specifically for that tomorrow. We'll look for some plans to ensure this is better handled moving forward. So I leave that with my manager's report that our town is fantastic, and I ask, please do not lose confidence in our resident troopers or the Connecticut State Police. I think this was just a flash in the pan here, and it's behind us.
Thank you, Brian. So I just want to say I really appreciate a lot of the commentary and updates you provided. I couldn't agree with you more that we have phenomenal resident troopers that are out there in the community, whether it's Step a Cruiser or being at, the coffee and donuts at Dunkin', even being in the roadway collecting money for the Special Olympics. They're truly phenomenal people, and they're very brave men and women that serve us every day. It is still very frustrating, and I think a lot of those sentiments are still out in the community. I'm glad you've been proactive and had preliminary meetings, and you're having tomorrow with our state delegation and the troop. One request I would like is for some sort of communication from Troop C leadership to the council, to you and to the community regarding this incident and what steps that are within reason that they can provide in terms of stopping this from going forward are publicly produced. I think they maintain a very good social media presence and they do great things. They do, the community conversations. They go out to the neighborhoods for neighborhood watch. They hold troop academies. I think Council Lubis helped with some of those. So I think we really need in terms of restoring that confidence, we need their communication and their voice, even if this is a flash in the frying pan. So that's, I think a lot of councilors would agree with that sentiment, but I think we need more communication from them. If someone is present and able to be present to speak on this issue at our next council meeting, that might be preferable. But I think at the very least, getting a statement and getting a better understanding of what happened with the reason is required.
I'll request exactly that.
Thank you. And I saw Councilor Nevichek and then Councilor Murray have their hands up, and I think after that, Councilor Khan had their hand up.
Of course, I support our state troopers, and I believe they're incredible. I think it's not the troopers, men and women, that they would have probably come out if leadership told them to go out. I agree with one of the residents or two of the residents. It comes from the top, and I think they do owe that town an apology. I know you just said a little earlier that we're lucky that nobody got hurt. So does it take somebody getting hurt for the police to pay attention? So I'm glad, I appreciate, I knew once you heard this, you would be all over it. So I do appreciate you, and again, state troopers are great, but the fact that one of our ambulances was not safe, trying to get to a call and has damage to it. Should we hold the state police accountable for that?
And let me clarify if I can. When the ambulance was damaged, it was reported to me that they were on the way to a call. They were actually on the way to get gas following a call. So no one's life is in danger in theory. By that happening at that exact moment. So I just wanted to clear that.
Thank you. All right, and then Councilor Murray, and then Councilor Khan, and then Councilor Lee. Sorry.
Thank you. Please touch on some of this, but I think perhaps this incident can be used to improve communications between our resident state troopers office and our residents. I know Steve referenced some of the outreach efforts that our resident state trooper does. I feel like prior to COVID, or maybe even earlier than that, there were some seminars that the resident state trooper was holding, I think at the library, regarding various safety tips that they could give to residents. Perhaps it's time to restart those formal sessions to help build more trust and confidence between the community and the resident state trooper's office. The other request that I would ask for us to consider making of our state trooper's office is to perhaps to publish some information about how we can best communicate the circumstances that might happen that would lead up to a 911 call. I heard you say, Brian, that there might have been some maybe miscommunication or lack of information within the trooper's office. I understand in an emergency situation when people are calling 911 that the information that they provide can be spotty, maybe. It's an emergency, you're kind of freaking out. But if we could maybe publish some information to help residents learn how to convey information over a 911 call, perhaps that would be helpful. Again, I echo the sentiment of my colleagues before me, and I'm sure the ones who are going to talk after me. I have a lot of confidence in the state trooper's office. We do need some accountability about this particular incident, and I hope that we take the opportunity to make improvements in the community relations between our town community members and the resident state trooper's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murray. So Councilor Khan and then Councilor Luba. Thank you.
I think to me is, whatever happened on Sunday night, I think is one time is too many. Number one, number two is like, all the residents at least, should get answers what happened and why the trooper went down, wasn't responded. But 25 minutes is way too long. There was an ambulance involved, was on the call, going somewhere. What happened to that? And it was a major interception. Means you are telling me that the state trooper, if there's a burglary, broken in someone's house and there's a five or six people, means troops will not respond to that. It's very much not acceptable to any resident who's paying the taxes in this zone. And I believe if the state trooper would say cannot answer the call, it doesn't matter what, because the trooper, a police officer is a police officer, we all respect that. It means if when he shows up, means I have to give, let's put it that way. Means those people are, I don't know how many people were there, 50, 100, whatever it is. They have to listen to them. I did spoke to a few people, official and unofficials, and they are both mad what happened. But at the same time, all the responsibility goes to the troops of not responding it. I do understand they are concerned about their safety of their officers. Yeah. It's their job to protect my family. And that's, if they cannot do it, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be there. That's the bottom line. Because we are paying for it. And if if not, we are taking the steps to help.
Agree. One time too many is too many is right. That comes down to prevention. We'll talk about that tomorrow with the state and again, in talking to the commander who came to the office, my office stood by his decision. It came down to officer safety. And that, officer safety was the reason why they want to insert the officers in the crowd. I responded to exactly these things in Hartford. Street takeovers were a regular occurrence, many protests. It's all in the approach. And I have some minimum expectations, you know, and again, I didn't want to move in there, making arrests and snatching people up and, you know, having a full scale riot with the police. But starting to arrive on scene, a uniform presence to act as a deterrence is not an officer safety issue. Park 100 yards down the road, 200 yards down the road, put the lights on. They're still responding to the 911 calls. They're still responding to burglaries. Our town is no less safe today than it was on Saturday. And the troopers are still doing a great job and responding to calls right now as we speak. I understand that this was unsettling for our residents. Again, we are in very safe hands. And this is an amazingly safe town here in Tolland. And we're very lucky, and I don't see that waning anytime soon. But I will bring all of these concerns that you brought up and that all of council brought up tomorrow morning, and that you brought up that night when you reached out to me. So thank you.
Means you're telling me that what happened if spark, somebody would throw a bottle into the bank and put a light on it? Means you're telling me that fire department will not answer that until it burned down?
No, that's
the reason.
not true. Fire trucks are very good at dispersing crowds and getting to the fires.
Means if a cop cannot show up, means one of the safety officers is gonna show up with a truck to the bank and he's gonna say, you know what? Please move out of my way, let me put the fire out, and they're gonna move.
We could what if it, we could come up with a lot of what if scenarios.
There's a lot of if, everybody have if.
Yep.
I mean, if I would have believed today, there would be some kind of answer on to say, one of their representative would be over here to answer those people. That's what I was believing that, but
I will request that of Troop C, I'm sorry, Command, to have some sort of answer. Absolutely.
thank you.
I don't know if there's any union issues with them, with that occurring or whatever, but I can work through that and find out. And I'll get counsel an answer.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. Thank you, Brian. Councilor Luba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As a law enforcement professional for almost 30 years now, I echo the sentiments and the statements of Mr. Foley. That on a professional level, I've had an opportunity to work with Troop C, with the resident state troopers on a bunch of different things. They are the epitome of professionals, and that I know that they would willingly go out of the way, lay down their lives if necessary for the safety of our town residents. So as a professional, I respect them. As a town leader, I find what happened inexcusable. That allowing street takeovers like this to continue on and failure to respond is not acceptable. And I'm speaking as a town leader here, that we cannot allow this to happen. And that I too call on the hierarchy over at the state police to answer why this was done. I know why. I mean, I've been in situations like this before where I know the various reasons why you make that decision. But I think that needs to be presented to the town so that the town residents can understand. And so we at least get some explanation. That the biggest problem that we have here though is that by allowing stuff like this to occur, allowing these street takeovers to occur, it not only creates fear, but as I've seen in other places, creates vigilantism. People now will no longer be willing to put up with it. And that given our population here, I think that's a very real risk. Somebody that could have been armed, that felt threatened, where now you have an entirely different situation because police are not responding. When I was working out of New Britain as a prosecutor, we had issues like this all the time, as Mr. Foley said. New Britain, Wethersfield, Newington, hundreds of motorcycles, bikes, cars taking over the streets. And it took federal intervention for that to stop. But it's only getting worse again. And I would actually call upon our state leaders to start taking a look at this, because this is something where as you reduce the penalties and you reduce the threat of punishment on the juvenile justice level, on the criminal justice level, on multiple levels, this is what happens. You encourage lawlessness. And that is something that I think that the state needs to take a look at overall. We are not the only community where this happens. Why do we allow this to continue to happen? There's something that needs to be done. And it's only, Connecticut is horrible for knee-jerk reactions. They wait until something gets to the point where somebody gets injured, and then that's when they respond. Most often in the opposite way in which we want them to. And I think that that's something that we really need to take a look at. I think that it's something that the state legislature really needs to take a look at this and strengthening the punishments, strengthening our juvenile justice system, strengthening our criminal justice system, so that we don't have stuff like this. So it's not becoming something that's acceptable, and then we have to worry about the police responding to, because it won't be acceptable. And again, my concern is the more that this goes further, the more that this happens, the more that you're going to see people starting taking their own safety into their own hands, and then we're going to be facing something much more significant. Again, I appreciate everything that our state police do. They do an incredibly hard job. They're incredibly understaffed. They don't have the resources that they need to do their job effectively. But as a town leader, I call on them to do that job. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Rubin. That actually your commentary had me with a follow-up question, Brian, perhaps to your meeting tomorrow, is in regards to surveillance. I know you said there were concerns about communication, not entirely knowing what was or was not going on. Do we have active cameras near intersection or along intersections of 195?
No, we'd have to check with we, the town. No, we, the state. No, we would have to check with the state police. Hopefully, as a part of their investigation, we'll check with the bank. I met with the Big Y management about improving their camera system there. I don't know what stage that was in, and that was initiated at the robbery of Morandi Bank. Or I'm sorry, Morandi Jewelers last year. So I don't think we have great video. The good news is there's about 300 video cameras there that night.
Yeah.
Filming it all, and I'm certain the state police are reviewing it.
I think that would just be another point of maybe the conversation is, in terms of both having accuracy of information and confidential deterrence, having more visual coverage of high traffic areas like that. I know there are certain cameras on highways that monitor traffic, exit intersections. I just wonder if that might be something to have brought as a point of discussion.
I don't believe they record. DOT does have cameras around not used for that purpose.
Okay. Well, that's just my one thought, is I think some sort of way to deter. I think having cameras there, having some sort of visual that both helps identify these issues, because they are definitely there. I've seen the police troopers, by that bank, watching for speed checks. They're usually pretty present there. And that's why, I think I've said to a lot of people that they weren't present that night. If someone had been there doing a speed check and all those cars showed up and they were there, I think it would have been quickly dispersed and would have been a different situation. Obviously, a what if, but
Had a uniformed trooper respond,
yeah,
or two. They bring with them cameras,
yeah.
body and dash, and we have footage of that, but it's not the case until after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of Councilor Minichek?
I agree. I don't think anybody would want just 2 or 3 state officers, state troopers running into a crowd like that. I think, Brian, what you're saying is correct. I guess the other question that we should be asking is, do we really not have a plan in Tolland like we do for the schools? I mean, yes,
There's a blue plan.
why wasn't it used, I guess?
Great
It was
question.
just used in another town.
Great question. We'll ask it tomorrow.
I mean,
That was part of the decision.
This is a safe town, okay?
Yeah.
So nothing happened there.
I believe it. I actually do still believe it's a safe
So
town. I believe it's a
That's
safe.
why they don't have any plans.
Well, there are plans, Councilman Khan.
I mean,
There's a blue
again,
plan. I'm sure they'll improve the plans for street takeovers as well.
it's one of those things I think sometimes we learn from very unfortunate situations. We see that around the country. We really do.
This is a learning pool.
It's
Certainly.
no excuse, but I'm sure it is something that we've all learned about. I do still think our community is safe. I agree with Lou and everybody else. I mean, I State troopers are great. I mean, I know they've had to come in our neighborhood and help out, though. You know, I've been helped out with another state trooper in another state that really saved our family's life, so I do appreciate them. Again, it comes from the top, and that's who I believe, right, you're gonna be talking to people that will have more answers.
Thank you. So other than that, Brian, do you have any other updates from your town manager report to provide?
Thank you, no.
Okay. We'll move on to item 11, adoption of the minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as outlined in 1.1.
Oh, God. I'll make that-
So move by Councilman Yudichak. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Luba. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Murray.
Aye.
Councilor Khan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Egan. Aye. Councilor Luba.
Aye.
Councilman Yudichak.
Hi,
And I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Move on to item 12, Councilman Murray, correspondence to council.
Sure. We had 16 email communications between May 10th and today. 15 of them were about sidewalks on the green, and one was about street takeover.
Thank you.
maybe actually, Lisa wasn't able to pick up the last.
Oh, what was the last email, Katie? If you can speak a little bit closer into your microphone. The last email didn't get picked up.
I'm sorry, the last email was about street takeovers.
Street takeover.
Oh, yes, yeah, we did receive that late this afternoon. Thank you. That brings us to item 13, chairperson's reports, and a quick summary I want to go through. First, I do want to thank the neighboring towns. I know Mr. Toomey's in the audience tonight. I want to thank him, the CERT team, and everyone else that worked together. Captain Carlson Memorial. I think it was phenomenally well run. Could have asked, I mean, for as tragic of a day as it was. I think it was beautiful weather. I think I heard a lot of great things about how it's organized. Great location. I think, I just want to thank you and the CERT team and all the towns that came together. I think I saw Vernon, Ellington, Avon, and can't count the number of towns that came out to support Tolland and Captain Carlson. So just want to extend that to you all.
For me, as I understand it, Doug Raceco.
Yeah.
Was the one who actually organized the whole thing.
Well,
I mean, we came in when it became a situation where it may really expand. But, all those who in the situation handled it with heavy hearts. And, Doug did a phenomenal job. I don't think there was anything that was missed. They even arranged, for one of our other firefighters who's short for his life to be brought up to the funeral home. So they covered everything. They did a phenomenal job, and it's been very difficult for everybody. Losing Captain Carlson.
thank you. Yes, I'll give it a shot to Doug as well. Yeah.
I personally thank all you guys that showed up, They were to our way to get on.
Yeah, no, I think I showed up at 5:30 and got into the tent at about 7:45 or so, but it was well worth the wait. A lot of great conversations, got me to talk to a few firefighters and their families, and it was really great. Rolling right into, I think additional CERT activations that are coming up is the Memorial Day Parade. Just a quick reminder to council members, I know several of you have already responded to the town manager's office regarding the council contingent along with Mr. Foley, so if you haven't yet, just confirm with their office. Looking forward to having that parade this Sunday. Joint chair meeting was canceled, obviously, due to the passing of Captain Carlson. It is rescheduled to the 31st. We're going to reorganize folks that may or may not be attending, so trying to still keep it as robust as possible, but looking forward to having the public there. The chair hour will resume back at the library the following Wednesday. There'll be a policy meeting tomorrow. We'll be adopting the budget. One request that will be going to the town manager's office is the council goals. I think our final for the term will be in our June meeting. And as a quick reminder to council members, it feels like it was a blink of the eye, but Brian's 1 year hire date is coming up. So at the end of June, we'll be planning for executive sessions similar to our 6-month review to assess Mr. Foley's performance. So
Is he still under warranty?
he might be.
Box 61 will take me back, maybe.
That'll be part of the discussion, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Well, Louis Wesley wants to stay with us too. I'm sure he's had a heck of a year, but. But that is it for me for the chair's report. So I'll move over to 14, which is communications and petitions from council members. So I'll open the floor. Councilman Yudichak.
One person. No. Yeah, I just want to, review Steve, Friday, everybody did such a spectacular job in an unfortunate situation with, Captain Carlson. Just to see how many people were there should speak volumes of the impact he made to our community and surrounding communities. So thank you, and I know Doug did put a lot of work into it, and it can take a long time for a department to heal, and by the sounds of it, Captain Carlson is really not replaceable, even though we need to find some up. So I just, it's really sad, but I want to say that everybody did a great job organizing it. So thank you, public safety and everybody that came out. And Sammy, thank you for all you've done for Captain Carlson. I know you poured your heart into it, but getting the community involved, doing fundraisers, and I think it's obvious that fire department and the family really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Yudichak. Councilman Khan.
As I would like to acknowledge Dennis, not only as a firefighter, but as I've spoken to many people, and every other person says a different thing to me. He was doing this, he was helping kids, he was helping family, he was doing. So I says, was he a one-man show or was he, what was he? I mean, walk right across the street from him. I see him 10 times a day going back, going to the bank, going whatever he's doing, but like, I said, I'm going to miss him. But at the same time, memory lost. Obviously, every person, including myself, has to go one day. There's no time for it. But how the town is going to adjust, and plus we have, but somehow it's like I don't have the word for it, but it's like we have to give some kind of, I don't know, should I say respect or should I recognize what this person is doing for the community rather than just for the one department or what can we do? Where we spending on it? I don't know, it's like there will be tomorrow, there will be a new council, but right here, can we set up something to it to recognize someone? Rather than Brian Foley, that is first year is coming up. Can we recognize something else? It's like the people who been there for generation, devoted their life to it. Then we can do something about it. Rather than talk, come and say something, whatever it is, and
You know, I actually do appreciate the recommendations. I think in our budget discussions, we talked about all the various funds that we established, and I think there are a few in there that are memorial scholarship funds. So I think we should look into the community establishing a Captain Carlson Memorial Scholarship, especially for those students that may be interested in going into public safety or EMS services, especially since we work so well with UConn. I think that would be a phenomenal idea. Budgeted funds set aside for this kind of memorial and work with public safety, work with the family. Find a way to media mechanisms that could raise funds, back that account and build it up into something that will last in perpetuity in his name.
It's a great idea.
I'm talking about the people I'm not only talking about Dennis right now. I'm talking about the other people. The person right here, he's been working for the town for so many years.
Decades.
He's like try to volunteer work. Nobody's asking, but he's doing it day by day. So at least we can encourage those kind of people that, you know what? Hey, thank you. At least we can say that, bring it to the town council, another 2 minutes of the town council, time, whatever it is. But at least we can say, you know what, thank you for your service, whatever you're doing. Thank you for that. At least we can do that. So like we have to, then doing something else.
Yeah.
So at least we have to recognize those people. Hey, you know what, 30 years, you want to celebrate? Come on, I'll buy you. But I'll, just say thank you,
Yeah.
that's all I'm asking for.
Have more community events that, you know, we come together, maybe something
Yeah,
like
what
outdoor
was-
space, yeah.
When the next community meeting is gonna be, if there's gonna be 31st, yeah, 31st?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. Are there any other additions or communications from council members? All right, double checking, nothing from Zoom. We will move to item 15, public public's participation on any subject in the jurisdiction of town council with a 3-minute limit. I'll open the floor to question or comments in the public participation. If you're on Zoom, you can hit *9 or the raise hand function, or if you are in the audience, you can approach the table. And a quick reminder to state your name and address for the record. So I'll open the floor to the in-person public first, and then we'll switch to Zoom and go back and forth until there is no more participation. Jim?
Came here tonight pretty upset, obviously, a lot of the town is upset. I wanted to give a understanding what happened. In my personal opinion, and I'm not a law enforcement officer, I've been involved with them for years. We have some of the best state troopers in the state. We have in this town, a lot of towns don't have, is a real solid working relationship between the state police and emergency services. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the state troopers. What, in my personal opinion, whoever made the command decision to stand down, that was the most incompetent decision anyone could have ever made. It just reminded me of Texas when they made the officers stand down, children were killed. We were fortunate. No one got seriously hurt. One of the things that bothered me personally, other than what we all saw, was that young lady her car being destroyed, something she probably worked for very hard, got up every day, went to work, came home, took care of her family, and she has to be subjected to that. But the thing that bothered me was when I found out one of her ambulances was damaged. Now, I know from what I understand, it was done on a return. But what the commander is not taking into consideration, that time of night, it's not a public safety officer that's in the firehouse. Those firehouses are manned by volunteers. They have been for over 50 years that I've been involved with them. We have to come from our homes to get to the station. That station is station 240. It really is one. It has got everything in there that we need to protect life and property. It has our major rescue truck, it has our ladder truck, it has a pumper, it has an ambulance. We just crippled the town by blocking that road off. And I'll be honest with you, Mr. Foley, I was pretty upset when you said you understood. I understand what you're saying now. That's why I wanted to come. For 50 years, I've been told not to speak up in the town council. It's just one of the unfortunate things sometimes comes back. But this really bothered me. And I don't blame, like I say, I don't blame the police officers. They're great guys. And they will lay down their life to protect someone. But obviously, they work under a command structure. And when their commander says you do not respond, they do not respond. So
whoever made that command decision really needs to be reprimanded severely, because he put life and property in jeopardy. And as you're saying, the truth is, somebody could have pulled out a gun, got afraid, and pulled out a gun. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was just telling me his son passed somebody in a passing zone. Next thing you know, the guy pulled out a gun. Could have happened there too. So again, I hope that something can be done. I'm not blaming the police officers because they are great guys. I've worked with them for years, and that's all I've got to say. Lighter note, there goes our people now. I agree that there's some issues with the sidewalk. But I tell some of the people that are in the historical commission, that street out there, this asphalt, used to be dirt. A little bit before my time, it used to be dirt, so, we're in a situation now that my personal opinion, I'm back at 100%, concrete is logical way to go. I mean, if you could color it brown, maybe it'd be better. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Seeing no one on Zoom with their hand raised.
Could you put your name?
Oh, did you need the address?
Yeah.
Jim Toomey, 416 Tolland Stage.
Thank you, Jim. All right, see no one on Zoom, so we'll go into the public if there's any public that would like to speak. Approach the table and state name and address. Yep.
I'll speak again, Marlon Knight, 84 Anthony Road South. All made decisions that got proud of. And we regret them sometimes. When you make a decision, you own it, you stand up. And an apology would go a long way. I'll be very surprised if we can get the state police to apologize, but they should. They owe it to this town. They owe it to that woman. If nobody else does. I hope they can. Brian, if you can convince them, you're a good town manager. But I think that would go a long way to building the trust back. I mean, he obviously made a decision for some reason, and maybe it was officer safety. I guess that's a good cause. But there needed to be a way of follow-up, immediate follow-up, as this thing escalated to the point where it was no longer just about office safety, it was about people safety. And for whatever reason, that got capped and didn't get flowed up as quickly as it should have, and probably would have made a different decision, I'm thinking. But hope it resolves.
Thank you. Yeah. Kurt?
For mayor, 113 Williams Way, Tolland. Stay away from sidewalks. In reference to what's going on, how many people signed up for the emergency system that's now been approved here in Tolland? I mean, this is the future of how we're gonna get the word around of things that are happening like this, and as I come from older generation, so I really know why these things are happening. I kind of blame the guy that, for the idea of, time up, that's kind of where it all started. So there's gonna be something that we can do. Either give these kids a place to do it, maybe even make money or whatever, we get Stafford Speedway, come up with some sort of a plan where everybody wins. Because we're not gonna win with these bullies just coming to towns and bullying, so I hope we can solve that problem. The reason I stood up is because I put up my hand and I wasn't recognized then, but I realized it probably will be in June, but could you do me a favor? Is today I got a letter, email from Lula that has been approved for Matt Conan, who the poor kid should have been put on the commission 3 months ago, but between everything that's been going on, he's been kind of walked over. Is it possible that I can
send him an email tonight and say he's been, because we went through the section where we, recognize people that were, approved to be put on a commission.
I think unfortunately, Brenda, since it hasn't gone for an entire town council vote, that Sammy and I approved it to put forward to the council, but it's got to go through the council for a final vote. So unfortunately, it won't be done till June.
13th, yeah, but thank you for bringing that up, and I apologize, I didn't recognize you before, I didn't see your hand, so I apologize for that, but we'll work with town staff to make sure he's on the next agenda for approval.
Well, 40 years to sales, if you don't ask you, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, thank you. All right, still no one on Zoom, so we'll continue with in-person participation.
Anybody else?
And I think George had a hand up, but Jody, you can go ahead.
Okay, well, he can if he wants.
George?
Well, you kind of skipped the car thing, because that's so far ago. Other than the fact that I have 2 vehicles that are older than that, and if you maintain your vehicles, that car is not very old, 2005. I have a 90 Ranger and a 2002 Intrepid, Dodge Intrepid, and they both have a lot more miles than that. If they were just getting rid of it to save gas and all that stuff, I can understand that. That's a plus. On this sidewalk thing, it's kind of like the fire department and fire trucks, and we like kick it and kick it and kick it, man, for years, and it just goes up in price. The same thing with the damn sidewalk, just get it done. That's what we gotta do, just get it done. My only question is always about cost. That seems like an awful lot of money to put a sidewalk in. I mean, I'm getting a foundation for $190,000, it's gonna hold up a 8-story house if I had one. So it just seemed, and there's a lot of concrete there, and there ain't very much concrete in the sidewalk, that green isn't that long. It's all labor, but I think they're milking the hell out of us on that deal. And this other thing, I have strong feelings on that about the street problems here. I know of someone, I know of more than one person, but one person in particular, he's licensed to carry, and he carries a concealed weapon. And man, if he was the one that was in that intersection or that area at that time, instead of that woman, all hell would have broke loose, because he would have been fearful for his life. So I know, Brian, I know it's weighing heavy on you, and I know you're gonna talk to people and all that. Just let them all know that we're all upset and we're all worried about it, because it could have been any one of us. And that's the thing, when you get somebody with a gun, you know what happens? They all start acting like idiots, and who's to say out of all those people, there wasn't another idiot there? And it could have been a lot of stuff happening, so we have to, and I understand where the police are coming from, because they're always worried about police brutality and police overreacted and all this other stuff. The fine line they walk. It's not an easy job, it's a terrible job. But it is their job, so that's just my opinion.
Thank you, George. All right, fishing game road, right?
I'm sorry.
You're just,
George, 36 Fishing Game Road, Tolland, Connecticut.
thank you, George.
You could cross from the gun people.
All right. Let's see, so still nobody on Zoom, still new with the public. Jody.
I just want, of course, a sidewalk, this is a nationally registered historic place. Mr. Foley brought up areas down by Crandall. That's not in a nationally historic place. That's registered. It's not on a state designated scenic road. It's not on a state road at all, where you're talking. And just because the state put down concrete ramps for free when they did the reconfiguration, they did it because it was the cheapest way to do it. And by putting concrete somewhere else on the green doesn't mean that 2 wrongs are going to make a right. And this product, whatever we use, we want it to last another 100 years, as the things that we have on the green have now. Concrete, stamped concrete is not going to give us that in New England. I mean, if you have a patio and a built-in pool area, fine, but not on a green so close to 195 when the snow plows are going to be putting down whatever they do to melt the snow. It's going to get shoved up onto the green. It's going to get into the stamped concrete, and it's just going to ruin it after a while. And if, I mean, you're paying a lot of money for a product that maybe you'll get 5 years out of, maybe 10. And the products that we're looking at that are more historically appropriate, Mr. Lappin was talking about gravel, and so was Mr. Luba. The gravel, though, the most recent correspondence that I sent you all, there's a gravel lock product that they put on top of it that makes it all stick and stay. It doesn't move. It doesn't, you can mow over it, you can drive over it, you can ride a horse over it. You can do whatever, and it's permeable, eco-friendly, made to last, looks like dirt or gravel, but it's a product that will definitely uphold frost heaves and everything else. And it will actually probably be smoother because when they do the stamped concrete, they're gonna do it in sections. It's not one continuous thing. They do like this much of the table, and then they move on, and they do this much more, and they do this much more. And this is just straight, and it's gonna be smoother, if anything, not slippery at all. And I really would like you to look at the link that I sent you and look at what the product looks like. And this is all about historic appropriateness, and I have asked that you reach out to the state historic registry, because if anything that goes on the green, if it's gonna jeopardize any of our awards, that would be tragic, in my opinion. And we are really trying to get appropriateness here. And we're all working to well as a team, but we all want to get it done. I want to provide ADA compliance for everybody. I work in the school system. I've worked there for 14 consecutive years with children with disabilities for 10 years of that. So we really do want to do that. We honestly do. And we're having a great time working with Kern. And now we have the Planning and Zoning Commission to take a little peek, and we have the Design Advisory Board, which Mr. Foley already agreed to look at the plans back on May 10th. And we got approved. The Planning and Zoning said that they would refer it because according to state statute 8-2, they need to leave the referral. And we'd also like to have the Disabilities Commission weigh in on it, the permanent celebration historical society, since they manage 3 of the museums here. And I don't really think that this should be left up to just you. This is our community center. It's the heart of our town. When you Google Tolland, the green comes up. I think that we really need to have a little more community involved before we make an everlasting life change like that. We're not talking about some area that is not in the heart of our town. We're talking about right here. And I really think that more people. And we should actually maybe do a survey, do a Google form, ask people what would they like. We all want compliance. It's deserving to all. I'm getting old. I just had knee surgery. I'm hobbling around. Who knows how long it's going to be before I have a walker or a wheelchair. So I totally agree. But we want it to look appropriate and tasteful and cost effective. And I think that there's better ways to do it besides stamped concrete. See, there's nothing else stamped concrete here. Why are we going to add a new texture when we can have unity? And a whole team of experts from Tolland already that have a lot of experience doing this on the Design Advisory Board. Thank you.
Good. Still no one on Zoom, so keep going out to the public. If there's anyone in present that would like to speak. All right. Going once, going twice. I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:27 p.m.
So
There's a second. Second by Councilman Yudichak. Roll call vote. Councilman Murray. Councilor Khan. Councilor Regan. Councilor Luba. I'm an aye, so it's unanimous. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. You're adjourned at 9:27.